Hi, previously we mentioned about the frequency of meeting the supervisor. Now let us proceed with our discussions related to the problem with the supervisor. This is one of the problems commonly encountered by the postgraduate students. Sometimes you will hear some comment from the postgraduate students stating that their supervisor is unable to guide them on the technical aspects. In fact, this is a broad statement. There are many reasons leading to this kind of statement. We're going to discuss some of them in these videos and some other in the following videos. Now let us think about what are the circumstances leading to such a perceptions by the postgraduate students that the supervisor is unable to guide him on the technical aspects. Definitely, there will be misalignment between the expectations of the postgraduate students and what is actually happening between the postgraduate students and the supervisor. What are those expectations? Normally, postgraduate students will expect the supervisor to have all the answers to all sorts of research problems, not only on how to carry out the research, how to overcome the problems of the research, as well as to have sufficient technical knowledge related to the research topic. Normally, postgraduate students will expect the supervisor to be able to give definite answers whenever there are questions or problems. Now, what is the reality? You will see that most of the supervisors may not necessarily be able to give all the answers to the problems and the questions asked by the postgraduate students. Normally, the supervisor responded with some guidance. Probably you could do this. You need to refer that. You need to go and check this, and so on and so forth. It is as if the supervisor never give the straight answer to all the questions asked by the students. This leads to the misalignment between the expectations versus the reality. This kind of expectations is understandable, as the postgraduate studies is a transition from the undergraduate studies. You know that the mechanism of undergraduate studies, students are studying theories which are well established, lecturers are giving lecture, and normally there will be straight answers, definite solutions, systematic procedures and steps in order to acquire the solutions. Inherit from this kind of culture in the undergraduate study, postgraduate students normally will expect a similar mechanism when they are doing the postgraduate studies. Now entering this postgraduate study, there will be a culture shock. You realize that your supervisor spend little time to give lecture. Instead, most of the time, your supervisors are giving directions, guidance, and informations. Your supervisor is expecting yourself to study and explore on your own. This makes a huge difference in terms of the learning mechanism by the students. I'm not saying that students should not expect the supervisors to be competent. It is the responsibility of the supervisor to have sufficient technical competency in order to guide the students. However, the mechanism of delivery, it will not be spoon-feeding. By the stage students are taking the postgraduate studies, students are treated as a matured person. They are taught to have the ability to do critical thinking and may not always have to agree with your supervisor. And if you look at the nature of the research, both your supervisor and the postgraduate students are now venturing and exploring into something which is new not known by the academic communities. You will not expect everything to have standard answer and solutions. And much effort will be required in order to come up with the workable mechanism in order to solve the problem. Now this is the mechanism for the postgraduate studies. Personally, I see a lot of claim stating that the supervisor is unable to guide a postgraduate students on the technical aspects. It's due to the gap between the expectations and what the students see in the mechanism of postgraduate studies. There may be some supervisors who are not technically competent, but under most circumstances, the supervisors are technically competent, just that the students misunderstood the mechanism of postgraduate studies. Now let us look at the elaborations coming to this statement given by the students. These are some of the examples. I doubt he is in the picture. That means the students see the supervisor cannot keep up with the current stage of the research, having no idea what is happening, what are being discussed, and what kind of answers that students are expecting. Another common comments given by the students is that the supervisor advises him differently every time. Obviously, what was discussed in the previous discussions with the supervisor was not aligned with the current discussions. The supervisor seems to have forgotten what has been mentioned to these postgraduate students, and there are inconsistency in terms of the advices given by the supervisors. Some other scenarios include the supervisor insisted on something which is not workable or obsolete, or the postgraduate students believe that he has a better solutions than his supervisor. These are among the common cases leads to the finding of the students that the supervisor is technically incompetent. Now, if you look into the situation here, you will see that the postgraduate studies is actually reaching to the mid or towards the end of the research project. Remember, previously we talked about the timeline of the postgraduate studies. At the early stage, there will be a lot of supervisions to help the students to kickstart the research. This will be the stages where the students has no idea with the research. The supervisors are guiding the postgraduate students hand in hand, teaching the postgraduate students how to design a research program. This kind of situations normally will not happen at the early stage. All these situations have a common characteristic, where the postgraduate students now has gained more knowledge regarding his postgraduate study, and it is likely that now the level of understanding related to the research topic or related to the research project, the postgraduate students are slightly ahead from your supervisor. And this is logical. As a full-time postgraduate student, you spend your entire day, entire week, entire semester focusing only on your research study. However, your research project, it will only be part of the job scope of your supervisor. You may observe the routine of your supervisor. There will be a lot of lecturing, administrations, meetings, guiding the other postgraduate students, and so on and so forth. Now, even at the early stage, your supervisor knowledge is ahead of you. Since you are investing more time onto your research topic than your supervisor, if you are really studying the postgraduate well, you will find an instant that you overtake your supervisor in terms of the knowledge related to the research topic. From there on, The longer you go, the gap of knowledge between you and your supervisor will enlarge. However, the situation here is you haven't seen the complete cycle of the postgraduate study, but your supervisor has experienced at least one cycle of the postgraduate studies. There are still valuable experience from your supervisor which you do not have. You will still need the advice from the supervisor. Specifically for your research, your technical knowledge probably is slightly ahead of your supervisor. However, various kind of other knowledge, your supervisor will be ahead of you. Now, if you look back on this kind of statement here, it will be purely meant for the technical aspects. You see he is not in the picture, or he cannot recall what he have advised you previously. It means that your supervisor will need to try hard to keep up with your current progressions of your postgraduate study, which at the same time, it is your responsibility helping your supervisors to quickly keep up with your current progress. When you complain that he is not in the picture, it could also partially due to ineffective communications between you and your supervisor. You have been dealing with your postgraduate studies full-time. You do everything in the lab. You encounter all sorts of problems in the lab. What you have experienced through, you expect your supervisor will know everything. And then when you come to meet him, there will be a lot of gap in terms of the knowledge. What had happened in the lab? What are the new things that you have gained? Those has not been communicated to your supervisor. Instead, you straight away bring your problem to your supervisor and seeking for the solutions. You know that when come to the solutions, there are always try and errors until the best solutions is acquired. Probably you have tried those solutions before and has proven failed. Now when come to your supervisor, coincidentally he gave the similar solutions, which you know that it is not workable. Now you start penalizing your supervisor that your supervisor is not technical competent. This is also unfair to your supervisor. Much effort will be required to help your supervisor to keep up your current pace so that he can supervise you better and give you more quality advices. Regarding the supervisor advising you differently at different time, you will need to understand that you have only one supervisor, but your supervisor may have more than one postgraduate students. Different postgraduate students may have different topic. When you have only one person in the record, you remember whatever he said. But when your supervisor have a lot of students under him, normally your supervisor can recall what he said, but he might not be able to recall which statements refers to who. You will need to give some time for him to quickly recall back what was the discussions previously, what was left over since your last progress meeting. Again, you will need to improve the mechanism and effectiveness of the communications so that your supervisor can fine-tune himself to help you more effectively. Sometimes you see students claiming that the supervisor are insisting on something which is not workable or obsolete. Now the question here is it really not workable? Is it really already obsolete? It may also due to the reason that the postgraduate students do not believe it is workable. Let's say now it is really not workable and the supervisor insisted so. Maybe a postgraduate student need to learn to calm down and listen for his justifications. It is also possible that there are problems with your solution as well, which your supervisor also see that is not workable. In order to break through this, your supervisor come up with another alternatives. Now this is the purpose of the discussions. This is the process of critical thinking, where you need to propose solutions and alternatives, which it is okay that your supervisors do not agree and bend your idea. And when your supervisor also propose the solutions, it is also okay for you to find the problem with the solutions. Both of you supposedly are on the same side. The opposite side should be the problem. Your supervisor should not be on the opposite side of you, because the ultimate goal now is to find the solutions to overcome the problem. It is only during this process of discussions, brainstorming, proposing, banning, and rejections, the solutions for the problem can be further fine-tuned until it comes up with one final solutions where both you and your supervisor are comfortable and agreed to be the best solutions based on the collective capacity of both of you at this moment. Then you can try the solutions. It will be a blessing if the solution works. Now if the solution doesn't work, it doesn't matter. You come back again with your supervisor, sit down with your supervisor, and discuss the problem all over again. Now the second time when you discuss the problem, you have an additional previous failure experience. Through this failure experience, you have better understanding over the problem. You have more information or data, and this time when you discuss for the solutions, the chances of getting a better solutions increases. Now remember, your supervisor supposedly is on your side. Your opponent will be the problem. It is not your supervisor at the opposite side. Both of you should have the same goal and the purpose in order to settle the problem so that the research can proceed and can be completed nicely. Now, if you strongly believe that you are right and your solutions to the problems is better than your supervisor, and you know that this is not on the basis of any emotional factors, it is purely based on the facts and figures. Now this will require you to have wisdoms to communicate well with your supervisor. The wisdoms of dealing with people is another type of the skills that you need to learn from your postgraduate studies. You're going to expect yourself in future inevitably have to deal with other peoples throughout your career life in future. Now this is one of the important training ground for you to learn how to deal with people and how to effectively communicate with people. There are common characteristics among academicians. You will take this as a training ground for you. How to convince a persons who are well trained with the critical thinkings, and how to deal with the person who are very firm in terms of their standings. And then you will need to find ways to communicate well and bringing to the favorable outcome that you intended it to be. Now let me summarize that when the students feel the supervisor is lacking the technical competence, sometimes this may not be true. This is likely due to the gap between the expectations and the reality, and postgraduate students misunderstood the mechanism of postgraduate studies. Also, you are at the stage slightly ahead of your supervisor in terms of the technical knowledge related to your research topic, and this is totally normal due to the time that you have invested with your postgraduate studies. In order to improve the capacity of your supervisor in giving you good advices and quality comments so that it can help you better in your postgraduate study, It is your obligations to help your supervisors to grow the technical knowledge related to your research topic. Now, the third point here, it will be, you will need to take this opportunity to learn how to deal with people and communicate with people effectively and with wisdom.